welcome to Tech Explorer. I hope you are doing well. So today in this video we are going to learn about decision making in Python. So decision making is anticipation of conditions occurring while execution of the program and specifying the actions taken according to the conditions. So decision structures, they evaluate multiple expressions which produce either true or false as the outcome, and you need to determine which action to take and which statements to execute if the outcome is true or false otherwise. So in this tutorial, we will be learning about how to create the decisions in Python program using different forms of if and else statements. So let's begin. So let's start with decision making in Python. So in your programming journey, decision making will be with you from the very beginning to the end. And at every stage, you need to make certain decisions which are based on a condition. So in programming, we often have certain situations where we need to decide which block of code should get executed based on particular conditions. And decisions are required everywhere in programming, and they decide the direction of flow of program execution. So in Python has various decision-making statements to create the decisions in a program using different forms of if and else statements. So let's see the various types of decision-making statements in Python. So decision-making statements in programming languages, they decide the direction of flow of program execution. And decision-making statements that are available in Python are if statements, if and else statements, nested if statements, if-elif ladder, shorthand if statements, and shorthand if-else statements. So let's see the if statement in Python. So if statement is the most simple decision-making statement in Python, and it is used to decide whether a certain statement or a block of statements will be executed or not. So it takes an expression and checks if the expression evaluates to true, then the block of code in the if statement will be executed. And if the expression evaluates to false, then the block of code will be skipped. So this is the syntax of the if statement. So you use the keyword if and you use an expression. Here you check your condition, and if the condition evaluates to true, then only the statement within the if block will be executed, otherwise it will be skipped. Now let's see some of the logical conditions that can be used within the if expression. So Python supports the usual logical conditions from mathematics. So the first is equals, that is a equal to b. Then comes a not equal to b. Then a less than b. A less than or equal to b. A greater than b. A greater than or equal to b. So these conditions can be used in several ways. Most commonly, they are used in the if statements and the loops. So you use these logical conditions within the if expression, and if that expression evaluates to true, then it's very natural that your block of code will be executed, and it evaluates to false, then your block of code will be skipped. Now let's see the flowchart of the if statement. So you have a test expression, and when this expression evaluates to true, it is going to execute the body of the if block, that is all the statements which are within the if block. And if this test expression evaluates to false, it is going to skip the body of the if block and is going to directly execute the statements just below the if. So now let's see an example of the if statement in Python. So here you are using two variables, a equal to 33 and b equal to 200. And now you are using a test expression with if. So as I've told you earlier, you use the logical conditions. So here you are using b greater than a. So if b is greater than a, then only you are going to print the statement b is greater than a. And as this expression is evaluating to true, so you are going to get the output b is greater than a. So on the other hand, if this expression which is given for the if statement, if it evaluated to false, then the statement, that is the print statement, would have been skipped. Now let's see another type of decision-making statement, that is the if-else statement. So the if statement alone tells us that if a condition is true, then it will execute a block of statements, and if the condition is false, then it is not going to execute the block of statement. But what if we want to do something else if the condition is false? Here comes the else statement. So we can use the else statement with the if statement to execute a block of code when the condition is evaluated to false. So here is the syntax. So if your expression is evaluated true, then your statement 1 will be executed. Else if the expression is false, then statement 2 is going to get executed. So let's see the flowchart of the if-else statement. So here you are having a test expression, and if this expression is evaluated to true, then your body of the if block will get executed. And after executing the body of the if block, the statement just below the if will be executed. And if suppose the test expression is evaluated to false, then the body of the else block is going to get executed, skipping the body of the if block. And after executing the body of the else block, the statement just below the if-else block will get executed. So let's see an example of if-else in Python. So here you're having a variable I that is equal to 20. And if your I is less than 15, that is, this is the test expression with an if. If I is less than 15, then you are going to print I is smaller than 15. Else, if the expression is false, then you are going to execute the statement print I is greater than 15. And then you are having another print statement after the if-else block, that is end of conditional blocks. So you're going to get the output as I is greater than 15, that is the expression in the if block, that is I is less than 15, is evaluated to false, and so it is going to skip the print statement I is smaller than 15 and simply jump to the else block, that is I is greater than 15. And after executing this statement in the else block, it is going to print the statement end of conditional blocks. Now let's see the nested if in Python. So we can have an if statement that is inside of another if statement, and this is called nesting in computer programming. Any number of these statements can be nested inside one another. So indentation is the only way to figure out the level of nesting. So they can get confusing, so you must try to avoid them until and unless they are very necessary. So here is the syntax. So if your condition 1 is true, then only it is going to execute the statements within the first if. Otherwise, it will jump to the else block and it will execute the statement 2. So if your condition 1 is true, it is going to go inside the if block. There is another if statement in the first if. So if your condition 2 is true now, then only the statement 1 will get executed. So this is the flowchart of nested if statement. So you are having the test expression of the main if. If it is evaluated to true, then it's going to go inside the if block. You are having a nested test expression, that is another if-else statement. So if this condition is true, then it is going to go inside the body of the nested if and execute it. If it is false, then it is going to go inside the body of the nested else and simply come out. So if the test expression of the main if statement is false, then you're going to simply execute the body of the else statement. And finally, it is going to execute the statements which are just below the if-else block. Now let's see an example of nested if in Python. So here you are having a variable I which has been initialized to value 10. So here is your first if condition. So if I is equal to 10, you're going inside the if statement. So as I is equal to 10, you will go inside the if statement. You are having another if condition, that is if I is less than 15, you're going to print I is smaller than 15. You are having another if condition, that is if I is less than 12, then you are going to print I is smaller than 12 too. Else you're going to print I is greater than 15. So what are you going to get as the output is I is smaller than 15, because the first if condition within the main if is true, that is I is less than 15. So your statement I is smaller than 15 got executed. Then the second if condition, that is I less than 12, it's also true. So your second print statement, that is I smaller than 12 too, has also got executed. Now let's see the if-elif else ladder in Python. So here a user can decide among multiple options. So the if statements are executed from the top down. As soon as one of the conditions controlling the if is true, the statement associated with that particular if is going to get executed and the rest of the ladder is bypassed. So if none of the conditions is true, then the final else statement will get executed. So here is the syntax. So if your condition 1 is true, then your statement 1 will get executed. Else if your condition true is true, then only your statement 2 will get executed, and if neither of the conditions is true, then your else block, that is the statement 3, will get executed. So let's see the flow chart of if-elif else ladder. So you're having text expression 1. So if your test expression 1 evaluates to true, then your statement 1 is going to get executed. If it evaluates to false, then your test expression 2 will be checked, and if it is true, then your statement 2 will be executed, and if it is false, then your test expression 3 will be checked. If this expression is true, then your statement 3 is going to get executed. And if neither of the conditions is true, finally the body of the else block will get executed. And after all the if-elif else ladder, the statements just below this if-else-if, they are going to get executed anyways. Now let's see an example of if-elif else ladder in Python. So you are having a variable I which you have initialized to value 20. So your first if expression is, if I is equal to 10, then you print I is 10. But here your I is not equal to 10. So this block is skipped. So you go to the next test expression. If your I is equal to 15, then you are going to print I is 15. But here also your I is not equal to 15. So this print statement is also skipped. Then you go to the third expression, that is if I is equal to 20, you will print I is 20. So here your condition is evaluated to true. So your statement print I is 20 going to get executed, and the rest of the ladder will be skipped. So your output is I is 20. Now we have a shorthand if statement in Python. So whenever there is only a single statement to be executed inside the if block, then shorthand if can be used. So the statement can be put on the same line as the if statement. So here is the syntax. So if condition and colon, then the statement. If your condition is true and there is only one statement to get executed, you are putting the condition and the statement together in the same line. So here is an example. I is equal to 10, and if your I is less than 15, you put a colon and you give the statement that wants to be executed. That is, if your I is less than 15, you have to print I is less than 15. So you're going to get the output I is less than 15 because this expression has evaluated to true. So now let's see shorthand if-else statement. So this can be used to write the if-else statements in a single line when there is only one statement to be executed in both if and the else block. So here is the syntax. Statement when true, if condition, else statement when false. That is, let's see an example. I is equal to 10. You are giving the statement which needs to be executed when the condition is true. That is, print true if I is less than 15. So print true, it is going to print true if this condition will evaluate to true, else you're going to print false. So your statement which needs to be executed when the condition is true is given first, then you give the condition with if, and then you give the else keyword, and finally the statement you want to execute when the condition is false. So here, print true if I is less than 15, else print false. Now this was all about the different types of decision-making statements in Python. I hope you have enjoyed my video. If you have any doubt, any query, do let me know through the commenting below. I would be glad to help you out. And please like and subscribe my channel if you want to have more tutorial videos in Python and want to take your journey from the basic to the advanced level. Till then, stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you.